Buying a home is, well, it's one of the biggest moves you're ever going to make. And the entire thing, all that excitement, all that money, it balances on a single document, the contract. So today, we're going to rip that thing open and look at the most common and most costly mistakes that people make. All right, let's get into it.
So, you've done it. After scrolling through a million listings and walking through countless open houses, bam, you found it, the one. It's got that perfect kitchen, the backyard you've been dreaming of, it's all right there.
And then reality smacks you in the face. This stack of paper, just full of dense legal language and ticking clocks, it's the only thing standing between you and the keys. It's where the dream gets locked in, you know? But it's also where one tiny little oversight can turn that whole dream into a total nightmare.
I want you to think of the contract as a minefield. Seriously, the mistakes we're about to walk through, these aren't just hypotheticals. These are the top errors that title companies, mortgage pros, and realtor associations see every single day. These are the tripwires people actually hit. First things first, let's talk about time. The real estate contract is basically a series of ticking clocks. And if you miss a single one, the fallout can be fast and honestly pretty brutal. Everything, and I mean everything, kicks off from this one date, the effective date. That's day 0. It's when the contract is officially binding, and it starts all the other timers. But here's the crazy common mistake. The last agent to get a signature just forgets to fill in the date. This one little blank space can cause absolute chaos and arguments over every other deadline you see here.
And that clock starts ticking fast. Take your option fee. That's the money you pay for the right to back out. You have exactly 3 days from that effective date to get it delivered. I'm not talking about postmarking it. I mean, it has to be in their hands. If you miss that deadline by even an hour, your option to walk away, it just evaporates. Gone.
So what about the finish line, the closing date, that classic 30-day close you always hear about? Yeah, with today's financing and appraisal backlogs, that's often just wishful thinking. And here's the tough part. If you run out of time and need an extension, the seller has absolutely no obligation to give you one. So if you set an unrealistic date from the start, you're putting yourself in a really tough spot.
Okay, it's not just about when, it's also about what. This next category of mistakes is what leads to that awful feeling on move-in day when you realize something you thought was yours just isn't.
Let me tell you a quick and painful little story. A buyer falls head over heels for a house, mainly because of this gorgeous $7,000 Sub-Zero refrigerator. The listing said it can convey, so they assume it's staying. But on move-in day, there's just a big, empty space where it used to be. Why? Because can convey doesn't mean will convey. If it's not explicitly written into the contract, it's not yours. End of story.
And that refrigerator rule, it applies to all the tiny details. Every single bullet point on this slide is a potential deal killer. You flip a couple of numbers in the legal description, you could void the entire contract. The seller gives you their old property survey but forgets the T-47 affidavit, that's the notarized form saying nothing has changed, that can stop your closing cold. And asking for vague things like all lender-required repairs, totally unenforceable. The lesson here, every single time, is that being specific is your only protection.
Okay, let's shift gears to the people and the process. We're talking about procedural slip-ups, the kind of paperwork mistakes that are so easy to avoid but happen constantly.
Take a look at this. Paragraph 21. This is for official contact information. Now, a common shortcut agents take is putting their own info here, to control the flow of communication. This is a terrible idea. It legally makes the agent responsible for getting you time-sensitive notices, and any delay on their part isn't just a mistake, it could be a breach of their duty to you and could wreck the whole deal. And the list of these little paper-cut mistakes just goes on. Every one of these things, forgetting to disclose someone's a licensed agent, not including the financing addendum, leaving a box unchecked, using an old form, these aren't just clerical errors. Each one is a potential landmine for the entire transaction.
But now we come to what is arguably the most serious mistake of them all. This is what happens when a real estate agent tries to play lawyer. I am talking about the special provisions section. This is where good intentions can go so wrong. Here is an actual clause an agent wrote into a contract. It says if the buyer's credit is not approved, the buyer and seller agree to negotiate seller financing satisfactory to both. I mean, it sounds helpful, right? Like you're creating a plan B? Except it's legally worthless. An agreement to negotiate is totally vague, and you absolutely cannot enforce it in a court of law. It gives you zero protection,
And what's worse, it's considered the unauthorized practice of law.
Let me give you another one that ended in a real legal fight. An agent wrote this confusing clause about an extra $12,000 in earnest money. The language was so murky and ambiguous that it led to a huge dispute over who got to keep the money, and the agent who wrote it was ultimately fined for it.
So what is the right way to handle these one-of-a-kind situations? Well, there's a very clear professional protocol. When a situation calls for a unique term, the agent's job is to identify that need and then immediately advise their client to talk to an attorney. The lawyer is the only one who should ever be drafting custom legal language, period. So after going through all these potential disasters, from deadlines and refrigerators to really bad legal clauses, what is the one thing you absolutely have to remember through all of this?
It's this. The point of all this isn't to scare you away from the contract. It's to make you prepared for it. Read every single word. Ask questions about anything that seems even a little bit confusing. And most importantly, trust your team of professionals, your agent, your attorney. Let them guide you. That's how you turn this intimidating stack of paper into the keys to your dream home. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing you're signing for isn't the house. It's your future. So, are you reading the fine print?